Welcome back, guys. We're proceeding from the last lecture that we did, which was on our project. And if you remember, we created our class management system. So I was just working on some things before I started the class. And here's how we will go about it, or we'll go through whatever we did. So the last time we did the function for creating a new file or a new value, where this is what we actually came up with, where we're actually using our structure to give the contents of whatever it is that we want to add to our file. So be that as it may, we might need to add some more, remove a few things, etc. So I had actually just started working on some content, and I'll explain that content before I add some more code, where in the read view value, this I would actually need to remove, because whilst I was working on this gave me errors as I was doing it. So we want to be able to read content, we want to be able to return to menu, we want to be able to work with our integer value, which we say int x. This we also don't need anymore, it was from the previous code. We want to work with a file, where we use the keyword file and our file pointer. We want to be able to get the input, whether it's a read content or return to menu. I'd actually spelled that wrong. Return. Okay, that's the proper spelling for return to menu. And then we've got our case 1 and our case 2. This I had also commented out. I don't think we need that as yet, but we'll be adding the content that we want to work with and see how it gives us the output that we've got. So the code that I was working with, this is some of the code, but we want to actually work with this, where we do the following. We want to create an opening of the file, so we put f open, where we put the value of the file or the content that we want of the file. But before we do that, we need a file pointer that we use for f open, and then we want to be able to open our C record .txt, and we want to be able to put an action which is read. So read then reads the content of our file. Let's just check if that's the same as the previous one. I think we are on, okay, it's C records.txt, C records.txt, and we want to be able to read. So that's fine. The next line that we want to work with now is similar to what we've got there, where we want a for statement that will be able to read the contents that we want, and we want our f close, and we have our fp. So we want a for statement. In our for statement, we want to be able to put semicolons, and then lastly we want to be able to have our f close. We open and close brackets, we put our fp. The reason we're doing this now is we want to be able to read the contents of the file. So the moment we have our for statement like this, we're just then saying we don't want to put parameters, but we want to be able to read the contents of whatever is stored in our file. So that which is stored in our file will be able to work with until we get the output that we're looking for. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to use this line of code where we're saying I equals to f get character from the file pointer. So what this simply does is it gives us each individual character within our file, and it displays it, or it displays it on the screen. So it will get all the characters that we've got in the file, and we'll be able to use those characters to display the contents of the file. From there, we want to have this statement as it is. I'll explain it. and hopefully we can be able to make sense of it. So we're saying in this statement that we've just put, we want to be able to say if our I gets to the end of the file, we want to break. But if it's not the end of the file, we want to always be putting the character individually until we're at the end of the file. So with this in place, I think the brackets may give us a problem, but let's just run it and see if it will give us a problem. Yes. Okay, we haven't declared I, so we just need to declare I there, and we run it and see the results. So we select option 2, we select read content, and there we go. It's actually reading the content that we've got in our file, and it's giving us everything until we get to the end of the particular file. So in other words, we're then saying this is the contents of what we've got in our file. Okay, but we don't want it to then end there when we get to view the contents of the file. So what we then need to do is we might need to be able to add something that when we view our file, it then takes us to another position that will be able to take us back to our menu. Okay, at the same time, we're saying this should return us to our menu. So we can simply call our menu like that, so that it takes us back to the menu. Let's run it and just test it. We go to number 2, we go to number 2 again, takes us back to menu. We select number 2 for read and view. We read content, we're fine, but it's then taking us out. So we'd also need to loop that and remove the loop to take us into the next segment or the next area that we want to do. So we can be able to say, the moment this is done, I think we can call read view value, so that it calls that function, and then it takes us back to the position that we're at. Let's just test that. Read content. Okay, so that is exactly what we want to do. So it takes us back to please select option, and then we can be able to go back to the previous content that we're at. And if we don't want to do that, we can select 2, then we get to the next position. So this is pretty much how we can work with our read, although we've got a view. So in other words, we might need to have an option to view the contents of whatever it is that we're working with. But I think in the next lesson, we'll be able to work with that and see how it can be achieved, or we can improve on our code.